Oh, he is a permanent member now. We'll make some announcements. Oh, you may need to switch with, one of the two of you needs to give Christina access to a mic. Yeah, but we've also got Tim, so. Yeah, they used to have this room a little bit better organized for large crowds. All right, Mr. Chair, I am showing 4 o'clock, and we do appear to have a quorum.
Thank you. I will call the meeting of the MPO's Mesilla Valley Metropolitan Transit Planning Organization Technical Advisory Committee to order for January 5th, 2023. I'll start on my far left here, and if everybody could state their name. And as a reminder, as we're in the agenda, if you're making a motion to state your name for the clerk, we'll know who made that motion or second. So I'll start on my far left.
Tim Pitts, the City of Las Cruces.
Andres Lenen, NMDOT.
Harold Love, NMDOT.
Dave Wallace, BLM.
Mike Bartholomew, City of Las Cruces Roadrunner Transit.
David Weers, City of Las Cruces Community Development.
Ashley Curry, Las Cruces Public Schools.
David Armyhill, South Central Regional Transit District. Renee Molina, Doñana County Engineering.
Christina Ainsworth, Doñana County Community Development.
And for the record, Mr. Chair, I will note that Mr. Pitts and Mr. Weir are brand-new appointees from the City of Las Cruces. So they are now permanent members of the TAC.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes other than the correction of election on item number 3? The spelling?
Oh, whoopsie doodle.
Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Ashley Curry, so moved.
Is there a second?
Harold Love, second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Next item is the election of officers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is our annual little ritual for us to elect officers for the Technical Advisory Committee for calendar year 2023. We have Robert's Rules of Order usually recommends, which we probably should follow, that the chair be nominated and elected first, and then the vice chair, but that the sitting chair, if a different person is nominated, presides over the entirety of that election, and then if there's a change, hands over the gavel once the election is concluded. So
for both officers, you said?
For both officers, you're, if someone else is chair, by the end of this meeting, you will at least be presiding all the way through the election of officers item, all the way till the end, so.
Okay, sounds good to me. So I'll take any nominations for chair of the TAC committee for the next year. And I'll say that it's a very easy job. The staff provide you everything. You pretty much just have to show up here and conduct the meeting. So if that will help anybody be interested.
This is Ashley Curry. I'd like to nominate Mike Bartholomew to continue on, doing such a great job.
Any other nominations? I'll agree to do it.
We do need a second, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, so I need
Sorry, that's right, Mr. Love. My apologies, my brain.
So I was going to close nominations and I guess just call for a vote on the one candidate.
Yes, Mr.
All in
Chair.
favor of me being a chair for another year, please say aye.
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 And opposed? Okay. For vice chair, this would be the person who would basically sit in for me whenever I'm not available to be here. So again, it's a very easy position. Don't have to do it too often. Anybody interested in nominating someone for vice chair? I think Christina, was it the last time? Everybody's pretty quiet. Would you be willing to do it again another year, Christina?
Yes, I'm willing.
Okay, I'll nominate Christina. Any other nominations? I'll close nominations.
We
and
need a
call
second,
for-
Mr. Chair.
Pardon?
Ashley Curry, second.
Okay, Ashley Curry seconded. So all in favor of Christina for another term as vice chair of the TAC, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? So it looks like we're it for another year. Minutes. Is approval of the minutes. Is there any comments or corrections to the minutes that were presented? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 1st?
Motion to approve, Andreas Lenin.
Is there a second?
Second, Christina Ainsworth.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye for approval of the December 1st minutes.
Aye.
Opposed? Next item is public comment. I don't think we have any public here. We'll move on to discussion items. The first item is the Open Meetings Act compliance training.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'll note that it says in the agenda that this will be conducted by CLC legal staff. It's me. CLC Legal is perilously short-staffed right now, and they did not have anybody that'll be available to give the training today, so I apologize. You've got me. But anyway, we're all pretty familiar, I think, with the Open Meetings Act, what it is and what it requires, but it is a state of New Mexico law that requires that public business be conducted in the light of day, in the sunshine, as it were, where members of the public can witness the decisions that are being made and hold elected officials and or other members of public bodies accountable for decisions that they disagree with. The Open Meetings Act, or OMA, it requires that any meetings that have a quorum of a public body need to be open, need to be available for the public. They should be announced. They should have notice and publicly available agendas given for them. Open meetings are required anytime that the public body is formulating public policy, which is pretty much anything that the TAC or any of the other member committees of the MPO do. All of this is formulating public policy. Also developing personnel rules, regulations, or ordinances, which doesn't so much apply particularly to the TAC. To some degree, it does apply to the MPO Policy Board. And then kind of a catch-all of discussion of public business, which is basically everything, and then taking any action within the authority of the board. There has been, we did have a couple of incidents which most of the members who've been with us for a while will remember us talking about that. We did have a couple of instances of Open Meetings Act violations by member committees of the MPO within the past couple of years. And there was some discussion surrounding that as to whether or not particularly the advisory committees, the TAC and the BPAC, qualify as public bodies. So I want to state here emphatically for the benefit of all and sundry that yes, the TAC does meet the state law definition of a public body, and so it is bound by that means. The policy board on an annual basis also passes an Open Meetings Act resolution stating that all member committees of the MPO will comply with the Open Meetings Act for that calendar year. So the advisory committees of the MPO are both dually bound. They're bound by the will of the policy board that they will adhere to the Open Meetings Act, and they also do qualify under the Open Meetings Act as being public bodies. Just also as a note, any sort of private conferencing, whether at the meeting or to the side, is prohibited by the Open Meetings Act. Members of the public are, which I needed to be trained on this myself, but in speaking with legal, I learned that members of the public are permitted to record or videotape proceedings on their own initiative. We are being live streamed by Diana County right now, so that would be a little bit redundant, but I didn't realize that any public meeting was eligible to be recorded. However, and this was also something that I find a little bit interesting, the Open Meetings Act does not require public bodies to allow the public to speak. The public can record, but if the board or other body does not wish to allow it, they do not have to entertain public comment at the meetings. I think it is good practice, so we're going to continue to do it, but that's an aside. As I mentioned, meetings are required to be properly noticed. All agendas will have a list of specific items that will be discussed at the meeting. Anything that is not listed on the agenda may not be discussed other than as a comment potentially for a future agenda item, but there certainly cannot be any action taken that's not listed. And really, there should not be any in-depth discussion of an item that is not listed on the agenda. And except in cases of emergency, 72 hours advance notice is required for agendas of public meetings. We also do have minutes, which we have Ms. Baum here, which we are very grateful for her services. But I'm not going to read through all of the requirements for the minutes, but at minimum it has to have date, time, the substance of the items discussed, and the minutes are subject to public inspection, and draft minutes must be available upon request within 10 working days of the meeting. Now, rolling quorums, again, I kind of alluded to this already. Private discussion of items that will or could come before the review of the body are strictly prohibited by the Open Meetings Act, and that extends to personal correspondence or personal conversations. There's no allowance for emailing between the members to discuss items. There's certainly no allowance for vote lobbying, trying to encourage members of the board, your fellow members of the board, to vote one way or the other outside of the bounds of these four walls when the meeting is in session. Those are all strictly prohibited. Those qualify as rolling quorums, and those are forbidden by the Open Meetings Act. Now, really, kind of the motivation is, again, the public business is the public business. We want the public to be aware. I mean, Lord knows we would love to get some more public at some of our meetings sometimes, but the public has a right to know what's being done in their name and with their money. And they have the ability to come in and review those proceedings as they are going forward, those decisions as they are going forward, and in the case of elected officials, hold those elected officials accountable at election time if the officials are making decisions that they vehemently disagree with. And this is, we cite this particular from the Arizona Supreme Court. This is a state of New Mexico Supreme Court case from 1981, but citing that this is really the law of the land, that there is a nationwide consensus about the importance of Open Meetings Act style laws, the Sunshine Laws, that decisions should not be made on behalf of the public in secret. Everything needs to be made, all decisions need to be made, and the discussion and the basis for those decisions need to be made in the harsh light of public scrutiny. So that concludes my presentation, and I will stand now for any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Christina, can you take over since I'm doing the presentation for the next one?
Yes. Okay, we will move on to item 6.20, fair presentation.
And I would like to introduce Mr. Mike Bartholomew.
Oh, you got, okay. So do I press the advance down below here?
I think it's easiest to use those.
Okay. Flip that a little bit. Okay, thank you. I'm Mike Bartholomew. I'm the transit administrator for City of Las Cruces Roadrunner Transit. I'm actually doing the presentation on the zero fare part right now, not the microtransit. So forgive me, I'm kind of using some slides from an older presentation. Zero fare is something that, to start off, this is something that we have started on a several-month trial period on November 28th, that we're going to be doing zero fares that our city council has approved currently through the end of June, but it's my anticipation it'll probably be longer than that, if not permanent, but we're going to see how it goes. But I was going to kind of discuss sort of the issues that we had as we were looking at zero fare. Zero fare is becoming more and more of a trend in the country. At least at the time I did this slide about a year ago, I could find about 40 or 50 systems that were either entirely zero fare, and some had always been zero fare from the beginning. I know agencies like South Central, you did zero fare for a period of time, for several months, 5 months was it? 5 months as well. So it's growing. The Washington Metro system, I've heard they're talking about going zero fare. I've heard LA Metro talking about going zero fare. I know Albuquerque has been doing it since January of 2002, and they're running their demonstration project through the end of June 23, and it may continue as well. And I've heard Tucson is also doing something similar on a similar timeline to Albuquerque. So it's been gaining traction around the country. And like I said, we've got the permissions from the city council to operate zero fare, not collect fares through the end of June of 23. We did have to revise our passenger code of conduct too, because of some of the expected issues that we have had, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But you notice I call it zero fare and not fare free, because it's no governmental service is actually free. So it's getting paid for in some way, generally through taxes. Most public services that are ultimately funded by the taxpayers. And so it would be similar to, we don't charge people to check out books at libraries and borrow books, or use parks, or, use the playgrounds at the parks. We have free museums that people can go to. Our road maintenance is paid through taxes. Again, the loss of fare revenue has to be covered in some other way than fares. Arguments by proponents of zero fare is that it creates more disposable income for the riders that use our service, it eliminates fare disputes at the fare box, provides transportation equity to those that need it most. Most of our transit riders are fairly low income to start with, so it gives them a little bit more access to transportation that they normally wouldn't have because of financial constraints. Bus boarding is faster with fare free. You just have to count that they get on the bus. You don't have to, again, no fare issues as they're getting on the bus. In larger cities, the arguments have been it reduces traffic congestion. In a smaller agency like us, that will probably not happen right away in terms of traffic congestion, but that's in more congested areas, that's an argument that's been made for it. It costs money to collect money, so it eliminates the cost of fare collection and improves the quality of life of the community. Opponents have said, of course, you have revenue that has to be replaced in some other way if you have a zero fare system. It reduces the ability for planning expansion of services because of that lost revenue. There's a perception, sometimes maybe valid, sometimes not valid, that there's increased vandalism and vagrancy related to zero fare systems, and buses become shelters for the homeless. So you have what we call them a transit loop riders. They'll just sit on the bus all day just because they have nowhere else to go. And and that is just one of the arguments. Voter tax recommended referendums that approve transit are often more successful when fares are charged with those referendums. Of course, we haven't tested that here, but that's an argument that's been made in other parts of the country. A perception that fares can lead to safer environment on the bus than having a zero fare system. That goes back to the vagrancy issues, concerns that some people have. The fare structure we had up until the 28th of November is up there. I won't read through them all, but it basically is a $1 base trip on our fixed route service, $2 on our dial-a-ride service. We did have essentially fare-free through much of COVID from March of 2020 through August of 2021. We started charging fares again at the beginning of August. When fares are free on fixed route, we have to have them free on our demand response, our dial-a-ride as well, because you can't charge more than 2 times the cost of a fixed route fare, so 2 times 0 is still 0. So I ran some, presenting some numbers here in fiscal year pre-COVID, pre-COVID annual averages. Our fixed route operating cost was about 4.16 million, 2.03 for dial rate. Actually, that's not pre-COVID, that's in fiscal year 22, didn't take the pre-COVID out. Our fare collection information is there. Fares cover about, on fixed route, about 7% plus of our actual costs, and dial-a-ride is much lower, less than 2% of our costs are recovered on dial-a-ride. It's on a per ride basis, it's a much more expensive service to provide. Fare loss, assuming pre-pandemic ridership levels would be to $334,000, $335,000. Operating expenses are more than pre-pandemic. We're paying a lot higher wages now for our staff than what we did before. Everything, as everybody knows, the cost of everything, fuel is up more too, so it's a lot more expensive to operate transit than it used to be. And what I did want to show on this is that fares really cover just a very small percentage of our operating costs. It's really a drop in the bucket of what it costs us. There's an additional cost on dial-a-ride, as I mentioned. We figure that we're going to be requesting this in the city budget. We're asking for more part-time drivers. Actually, we're going to be asking for a mix of full-time and part-time drivers. That's going to have a cost to meet the demand, additional demand we're going to see on dial-a-ride. Of course, across the system, dial-a-ride and fixed route, we're going to be losing that much money, $273,000. And we have additional operating expenses that have gone up of over $300,000 for fuel and maintenance supplies. We were looking at, we want to get, we think we may need up to 5 additional paratransit vehicles, or initially next year we're going to ask for 2, but we have a feeling we're going to have to keep asking for more as long as there's fare free. So right now those vehicles are costing around 100 and it depends. Even one that's just a gasoline vehicle is running us around $110,000, $115,000 right now. And we really would like to convert some of our vehicles to electric vehicles, but those are even more expensive yet. So we're going to kind of see where that goes. The important thing is that we have vehicles to provide transportation within the funding that we have. So you can see that's well over $1.2 million first year full cost if you add the capital stuff in, just to look at, it could be that much with dial-a-ride and fixed route being fare free. But we're going to be monitoring it real closely to see what the actual demand is. Of course, we've only been doing it a little over a month now, but our December was doing really good when we hit fare free. We actually, our December was pre-pandemic levels, which was pretty amazing considering, you know, it's a break for most students at the university and everything. We're doing really good. Other impacts of zero fares, well, as I mentioned, it increases demands on dial-a-ride. More people want to use that service. It's already near capacity. That's why we need the other vehicles. Fixed route has the capacity to meet the demand, so we're not looking at getting more buses. We have plenty of room on our buses to meet the demand. Microtransit has the capacity may not have the capacity to meet the demand. Said I wasn't going to talk too much about microtransit, but part of our short-range plan, I may have presented this to the TAC before, of our, when we recently had our short-range plan updated, is that we want to look at providing some microtransit in areas of town and integrating it with our dial-a-ride service, but that's going to add an additional demand that we really weren't planning for, having zero fare if we were going to add that in. So we're going to probably set ourselves up to move towards microtransit, but really not implement it as quickly as we thought we would. We're going to be getting ridership demographics. We're going to start doing surveys too, because this is something that our city council wanted, was some of the, how does the service really help people? So we'll be getting some of the anecdotal stories of how transit is helping people with this fare-free service. And we are addressing loop riders. As I mentioned, we had updated our passenger code of conduct, so we're not going to be allowing people to ride on the same bus all day. They will have to switch buses if they go a full loop on a bus. We're limiting, we've had problems with the baggage and carts that people try to bring on the buses, and we're making constraints on that for safety reasons, that there's just not enough room for, it's amazing. I mean, people are bringing on these suitcases that are as big as me on the bus and trying to pull them in on the bus full of groceries to get around the baggage limits that we have. So as I said, our next steps are we're going to be monitoring the service over the next few months. We're going to be going, especially on dial-a-ride, we're going to be going to the city manager in April to just kind of give him the pluses and minuses of how it's been going with our zero fare project. We're already planning on including what the budgetary impacts are in our current request for fiscal year 24. And we told council that we come back to them in May to see how they want to proceed with the zero fare project, whether they're willing to have it continue, also to help fund it on beyond the end of June. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from anyone?
Andreas Lenen, NMDOT. You mentioned the unused or the fixed capacity has, fixed route capacity has room for expansion and adding ridership. What is the actually unused capacity of the system right now? I mean, we have the fixed cost for the drivers, for the equipment, the fuel, but how much capacity is unused currently? You have that number or idea?
To be honest, I have not looked, calculated in terms of how much extra capacity.
And percentage-wise, what is the current use?
I would say that, it all depends upon the time of day. It averages out over the time of day. I would say, since we have gone fare free, that I would say, especially at peak times of the day, in the morning, midday, in the evening, we're seeing 2/3 of the seats being filled on the bus. But by capacity on the big buses, they allow for standees on the buses too. So, but that many of the seats are full. And our drivers are reporting that there are certain times of the day on some of our routes that all of the seats are taken on the buses.
So with the zero fare, would you anticipate that these rush hour users would actually be handicapped trying to get to work?
Well, we want to attract more people to use transit, try transit as an alternative. I don't know how many, how many is actually, that's what we're going to be monitoring, is how much more ridership we're going to get. And some of our surveys, we're going to be able to monitor, what purpose of their trip are and everything. So at this point, it may be a little premature to exactly answer your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is Ashley Curry. I do have a question for you. As far as schools, have there been any schools that have reached out to you to use the free fare for field trips and such? I know it's obviously limited to what seats are available on the bus at the time, but.
Well, we've always had schools have field trips, use our services. We've always talked to the schools and recommend that, hey, you call us, in advance, because sometimes they're wanting, we've had situations where they want to take 3 or 4 classes of students at the same time. And there's just not enough room on the bus to take everybody at once, and we don't put out extra buses for that. So we do encourage the schools to contact us. But especially in the springtime, late April, May, it's just like there's dozens of school trips that were happening even when we were charging fares. So
Interesting, okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
and so we'll see what happens come May.
Yeah, thank
When
you.
they're really doing field trips.
Appreciate it.
Any other question? Okay. Thank you. Okay, next item is a presentation on MPO basics.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to introduce Ms. Katerina Provingi.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, committee. So I'll be going over the MPO basics presentation. The metropolitan planning organizations are federally mandated and state designated planning agencies in metropolitan areas with a population of over 50,000 people. There are 5 MPOs total in the state of New Mexico. We have the El Paso MPO, Farmington MPO, Mesilla Valley MPO, Mid-Region MPO, Santa Fe MPO. EPMPO and MRMPO, so El Paso and Mid-Region, are transportation management areas, or as we call them, TMAs, by virtue because they have over 200,000 people in population. Small MPOs, such as Mesilla Valley, are created by the Joint Powers Agreements, JPAs, among other member jurisdictions of the MPO. The JPA specify the terms of intergovernmental cooperation and MPO role of the MPO and MPO staff in transportation planning in this area. Additionally, the JPAs, they outline financial responsibilities of each member of the MPO. Federal law does give you more definition to the structure of the TMAs. The MPOs are required to have bylaws, as you remember from last year, to govern their internal operations and procedures. The bylaws are updated as needed or with a new JPA and the Mesilla Valley MPO bylaws. Like I just said, they were updated last year and they went into effect on January 1st of this year. The NMDOT establishes a 3-year cooperative agreements with each MPO in the state of New Mexico. The cooperative agreements establish the terms of the financial grant to each MPO. So the MPO staff, we interact with the NMDOT liaison for most issues related to both NMDOT or FHWA. The MPOs are required to produce several work products. This is what we produce every year. So public participation plan, the PPP, is updated every 5 years, and this goes hand in hand with the MTP. Title VI plan is also every 3 years. Unified Planning Work Program, or as we call it, UPWP, is every 2 years. Transportation Improvement, so the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, updated quarterly. The open call for projects is every 2 years. The Metropolitan Transportation Plan, MTP, is updated every 5 years. The annual listing of obligated projects is every year. And the annual performance and expenditure report, or APER, is every year. So the PPP defines how MPOs conduct public involvement. The goal of the PPP is to guide the MPO to have a transparent and predictable transportation planning process. It's accessible to all impacted or interested parties. The PPP must be adopted or updated before the commencement of the MTP. And it's, like I said, it's updated on a 5-year schedule, like I said in the previous slide. The next update for the PPP will be this year. Title VI plan, the Title VI plan establishes MPO compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Title VI plan serves as assurance to the U.S. government, or the U.S. Department of Transportation, that persons are not excluded from the planning process. Title VI plan also details a complaint process for the Title VI violations. The Title VI plan must be updated every 3 years. The next update will be in 2024, next year. The UPWP biennial document that outlines transportation planning activities to be conducted by MPO staff, both those that MPO staff will oversee as well as those as MPO staff that will participate without overseeing. It must be consistent with the MTP. We'll go over that in a second. The MVMPO, we adopted the new UPWP last year in 2022. These are examples of programs that we have under the UPWP. So Rec Trails Program, Transportation Alternatives Program, the TAP, and CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality. For state, we have the TPF, Transportation Project Fund. As for the projects, we also have the federal and state projects. Recreational Trails Program, these are programs. Then we have several projects that we have under this: Walnut Street Improvement Project, Elks Drive Trail Project, Las Cruces Lateral, Safe Routes to School Coordinator. And then for state, the La Llorona Trail Extension. The current UPWP went into effect last year on October 1st. This is the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. It's a list of federally funded and or regionally significant projects within an MPO area. So the completed projects that we have is the University I-25 interchange, Valley Drive, and the Valley Drive from Picacho to Avenida de Mesilla. The ones that are still ongoing: US 70 maintenance projects, I-25 corridor study, and Elks Drive Trail. So we do have future projects. So in the next 5 years, we do have University Avenue Multi-Model Project, Roadrunner Transit Maintenance Operations Center, Dripping Springs Roadway Improvements, US 70 Rehabilitation in their next phase of that. And then after 5 years, future projects: Arrowhead Interchange I-10 Bridge Replacement, Mesa Grande I-10 Rehabilitation Project. And we will publish a tip call for projects later this month. Then we have the MTPs. The MTPs are basically large, long-range plans. They cover a 20-year, minimum of 20 years in planning. Federal law generally requires MTPs to be updated every 5 years. The MTPs do have their requirement. They have to be consistent with federal transportation law. And they have to identify facilities that that are integrated transportation network and emphasize those facilities that serve national and regional transportation functions. They consider the 10 planning factors. They describe how the performance measures and performance targets or performance measures are used in the MTP to assess the transportation system. They do include a system performance report that evaluates conditions and performances of the transportation system. It incorporates the strategies to improve the performance of existing transportation facilities, relieve vehicular congestion, and maximize the safety of mobility of people and goods. They include strategies to enhance transportation and transit, incorporate financial plan that demonstrates how the MTP can be implemented. So they include, it also includes, the MTP is, again, it's our longest one. The MTP includes financial strategies dedicated to maintaining not only existing infrastructure, but also for future infrastructure. They examine implementation of environmental mitigation activities. They are used for planning as well. Though it's not required, it is strongly encouraged by the FHWA and NMDOT. And it's for future planning as well, and then also to address emergent issues. The currently adopted MTP that we have is the Mobility 2045. It was adopted back in July, on July 15th in 2020. The next MTP will be adopted in June, or will be adopted by the policy board by June of 2025. And we are going to be starting the process of that this year. So TAC. So basically the responsibilities that we expect from TAC, providing a technical review of all transportation plans within our planned area, provide a technical input on any significant projects to policy board, serve as a liaison between us and your allotted organizations for federal and state grants and projects, and also to provide project updates to us and as well as policy board. So the purpose of of the MPO Basics book is just to provide you all a manual for everything that we have and we produce and our products, as well as your responsibilities. We're happy to provide updates of the book to you all as needed. Are there any questions or comments?
Any questions from the committee? So this is Mike. So you're going to be doing your public participation plan update this year? Is that what I saw? Okay.
Yes.
So we'll be seeing that coming through probably the committee soon.
Mr. Chair, this is Andrew Ray for the record. That's probably going to be, probably be looking at that coming before the committee in the May-June timeframe.
Okay. And I had a question on the Title VI program too. So I know that this document is available in Spanish. Do you ever get requests for having translations of your?
Mr. Chair, I do not recall an instance where we've received a request for a Spanish translation. That does not mean that it did not happen. My memory is not perfect, but it certainly would be a very uncommon occurrence, and it hasn't happened in my memory.
Okay. Or an interpreter at a meeting?
We have had interpreters at meetings. We absolutely have had interpreters at meetings, but as far as requests for documents, I don't recall an instance where that's occurred.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, next item is a call for projects for RTP, TAP, and CRP.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the TAC. Dominic Loya for the record, MPO staff. So we did, at the end of last November, open a call for projects, and basically November, December timeframe. So there are 3 that are currently open right now for the Transportation Alternatives Program, for Recreational Trails Program, and the Carbon Reduction Program. So the application process for TAP and RTP, they do need, the state requires the ADA plans and Title VI plans to be verified, and then completed applications need a cover page, table of contents, project feasibility form, which will require a meeting with NMDOT, which MPO staff will facilitate, the project prospectus form, and then the application itself, as well as in this round of call for projects, TAP and RTP now are required as Buy America acknowledgements. There's also needed to be a resolution of sponsorship with proof of match of the 14.56%, the budget to pay all costs up front, and acknowledgement of maintenance responsibilities. And if it is in the rights of way of somebody else, NMDOT or say any federal rights of way, it would need a letter of support regarding that. And a basic map, and then additional documentation, which includes any plans this is included in, whether it's the MTP or any of the long-range plans for the city, county, or the town of Mesilla. So these are just some of the projects that can be done. With sidewalks, or for TAP, it can be sidewalks, ADA improvements, lighting for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, bicycle parking, bike racks, for recreational trails. It's ADA improvements related to trails, lighting for bicycles and pedestrian facilities related to trail facilities, bicycle parking related to trail facilities, and general education for programs and training. So we have the carbon reduction program. This is the new program from Bill. So basically, it has the same stuff, the table of contents, project feasibility form, project prospectus form, the carbon reduction application, and then a Buy American acknowledgement, as well as resolution of sponsorships, again, the project budget, and any additional documentation. So this one can actually be used for traffic monitoring management and control facilities, public transportation projects, transportation alternative projects as well, advanced transportation and congestion management technology projects, infrastructure-based intelligent transportation system to replace street lighting and traffic control devices with more modern devices, freight movement impact reduction, alternate fuels vehicles, diesel engine refits, stuff that improves traffic flows, reduction of transportation emissions at port facilities, renewable energy generation facilities, and biological carbon sequestration practices, and mode shifts projects in the right-of-way. So the process, the call for projects will be open until January 27th. All applications are due by close of business on Friday, January 27th. On February 1st through the 10th, we will be scheduling PFF meetings with NMDOT. And then on February 8th will be a presentation, the first presentation to the MPO Policy Board. They will make a ranked list. The next meeting will be February 21st for the Bicycle Pedestrian Facilities Committee to review the projects and also present and rank. Then March 2nd will be to the Technical Advisory Committee. And then on March 3rd, there will be a special meeting of the MPO Policy Board to rank and approve the projects to send to NMDOT, as all applications are due on March 10th, which is the following Friday. And I will now stand for any questions.
Any questions from the committee? David?
Mr. Chair and Dom, could any of those funding programs be related to railroad crossings or railroad improvements, or is that outside the scope of those projects?
Well, railroad crossings were not specifically covered in it. We can put in a request to NMDOT to, if you have a specific crossing in mind, to see if it would be covered under it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I was just wondering, curious if there were entities that were applying for any of these funds here.
Las Cruces Public Schools and the city are hoping to put in a joint application, actually. We're working on it.
Okay, I don't see any other questions at this point in time. So next is committee and staff comments. So first is City of Las Cruces. Do you have any comments? Yeah.
Tim Pitts, City of Las Cruces. I'm not up to date on any projects that we're working on right now, so I will have a better update for you next week or next month.
Okay, Doña Ana County.
Doña Ana County does not have any current projects to report on. Renee Molina.
Town of Mesilla? Not here. Las Cruces Public Schools.
We don't have any updates from Las Cruces Public Schools, but I can give you an update from the city that pertains to Las Cruces Public Schools. They're doing the utility updates by Sierra Middle School. And I'm just, why am I drawing a blank on that name? It's, the name of the street that's perpendicular to Spruce. Walnut, thank you. So they're going to be doing that. And then they are starting on Monday doing ADA updates and sidewalk improvements from Solano up to Sexton on Madrid. And that's going to start on Monday. They're going to close one side of the road and then the other. And then they're going to do the next section up towards Loma Heights Elementary. So those are what we know of, at least for city regarding, related to school district.
Okay, Roadrunner Transit, that's me. I think I mentioned it last month, but we did start our construction project on our operations and maintenance facility. That's kind of catty corner across the street over near Joint Utilities. So that started construction in late October with a substantial completion date right now of around July of 2024 for that facility. Once that's built, then all of our operations that are currently on Hadley Avenue will be moving to that new facility. The administrative offices will remain in the intermodal center where they are right now. And our only other big item right now is we're gathering lots and lots and lots of data for our triennial review, which is actually a quadrennial review this year because of COVID. They have they skipped a year, and we have to give them 4 years of information now. So I think Angela may have already been requesting
Mr. Chair, we've already spoken with your staff about that. Unfortunately, fortunately, we're actually going to be able to provide you guys with a lot of very current data because we're about to do quite a number of things the triennial quadrennial review is interested in. But unfortunately, in the immediate term, I wasn't able to give Angela anything because we don't have any of the stuff yet. But we are working with your staff on that, and we will be as ready for that as is possible for us to become. When will the review happen in September of this year? Is that?
They're not, I'm not sure when they're actually going to do it. They're going to be doing it virtually this year. They won't actually be physically on site. And, if everything is satisfactory with the desk audit stuff that we submit, they may not even have any questions in your area.
Well, I guess that
we'll
would
have
be
to wait
what
and
we
see.
want then,
We have
wouldn't
to
it?
have all the material turned in no later than the 3rd of February.
Okay, well, okay, then I guess for your operational benefit, some of the stuff we're not going to have done by then, so we will have to turn in some comparatively older data, but we will work with Angela on getting stuff.
Yeah, we'll work with you on it. Okay. That was it for Roadrunner Transit, South Central Regional Transit District.
Yes, thank you. David Armijo, Executive Director for South Central Regional Transit. We had a busy holiday. So in addition to a couple of the grants we got last year for electric buses and for capital, we are now in the process of getting finalization for 3 grant awards for CMAQ funding from El Paso MPO. So we can be happy that we're starting to bring money back into New Mexico. That was originally intended for us. The total now is at $5.5 million. So that would bring us to $11 million overall in electric buses over the next 3 years. So we're doing very well with that. We're also participating in a regional fare study that El Paso MPO and Sun Metro and El Paso County are doing, and they've invited us to participate. So we get in for free, and TTI does all the work. So we're kind of excited. That's a fare policy, regional fare policy and technology. So it's interesting, the process that you're going through. We're also being approached by the county to go to free fare. But as we look at the regional fare process, we look at what kind of technologies we can do to pay off the bus. And there's certainly more organizations around the country that are moving in that direction of either raising fares or doing something more critically. So I'm not sure we're going to end up on this battle between free fare, no free fare, or whatnot. I'll only weigh in the fact that we like having the money. And I think in the long run, this region is going to have to do a sales tax initiative, and that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years between the city of Las Cruces and the county of Doñana. And I agree with one of your major points that you have on there, Michael. In fact, your points are very good on both sides. You did a really good job. But we're not going to get support in the region if we're having free fares. So in the short run, we're pretty much killing ourselves from where we need to go down the road. And so that dialogue politically is going to have to happen between our boards, and we share some of the same ones on the policy boards as well. But on the other side of things, I think it bodes well that we're getting new facilities, more capital money to this region, and that we are moving together on electric buses. I think that's really going to bode very well, and the school districts are as well. So the three of those, at some point in time, we should do a public hearing on that. And with that last statement, we do have a meeting in a couple weeks. I guess there's a thing called the Power
Up, I think
Up
it is.
Expo and Training in 2 weeks. I guess it's the 20th, 21st, Friday, Saturday. And there's going to be a number of folks. I understand school districts will have something over there, a Bluebird electric bus. The folks at El Paso Electric are actually one of the groups, Las Cruces, and so on, that are working on that. So it's the first of its kind. And so again, we're a lot of firsts going on, and so very excited to see your facility coming along. And so I think at the end of the day, as 2023 gets started, it does start on a positive upbeat. So I think there are some great things that we hope to look for as we finish the year. We won't see any electric buses for us until 2024, probably not until the first or second quarter. So Michael will be first, and maybe, I don't know where the school district timeline is.
I cannot answer that, but I can find an answer for you.
Yeah, we should find out. I got to imagine it's sooner than later, so maybe in the next year.
They've talked about it, but I don't have a time. I'll find out.
Yeah, I've read about it, so, but we'll see. Anyway, that's all I have to report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. And this is Mike Bartholomew again. And I know I've had a conversation with Andrew and Michael at the MPO too, is that I think from our perspective, you talked about needing a regional sales tax and, how it's going to grow. I think that I also think at some point we need to be looking where we're going to be with transit 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road in this county. And if we can maybe at some point find some funding to have a more long-range plan study that might be a joint one between the South Central and Roadrunner Transit, I think that might help move along some of the process with the GRT too. With that, NMDOT project updates.
Harold Love, NMDOT, Department of Transportation currently has no active projects in the area.
And this is Mike Bartholomew. When's the work going to be done on North Main Street between the Three Crosses area and Elks? I know that's the next phase.
Oh, the widening project.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 2024, we should be.
So another year yet or so. Okay.
There's some issues we have to deal with and finish up with the crossing, the bridge crossing over the lateral, with those agencies that are involved with that. So.
Okay, thank you. And MPO staff updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have one either today or tomorrow. I'm not sure when the announcement went on our website, but we are starting a public comment period for MTP amendment, which will be to incorporate the state of good repair and system performance, federal performance measures. The state of New Mexico, partially due to slowness on the part of the federal government, wasn't able to get the data for those two performance measures to us by the November meeting, which is when everyone will remember we normally handle, and we did handle last year, the safety performance measure. So that public comment period starting either today or tomorrow, and the TAC will be taking action on a recommendation to the policy board on those two performance measures at the February meeting.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and I thought of one thing that on the presentation on the MPO basics that might be kind of, I don't know if it would be beneficial to others on the committee, but maybe just go more in depth on the maybe like with some examples of your, just the timing of how the tip process works and how you do the quarterly updates, because it certainly caught me because it's on a quarterly cycle. Sometimes it doesn't happen as fast as you would like it to happen sometimes. And
For us, it feels like it's happening way too fast, Mr. Chair. I don't know what you're talking about.
And it might be kind of good for everybody to understand the process that you have to go through in amending the tip or adding projects to the tip.
We will add that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Is that it for your
Yes,
MPO
Mr. Chair,
comments? Okay.
that's my only update.
Okay, and I see no public here yet, so I guess that it's time for a motion for adjournment. Is there a motion?
Ashley Curry, so moved.
Is there a second?
Christina Ainsworth, second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So we are adjourned.